Welcome to Mimio Training, Quick Learn On Demand, MimioStudio Intermediate 1, Formatting 1. In this session, we're going to talk about fixed aspect ratio, grouping, ordering, locking, transparency, and alignment. In order for you to have something to follow along and also to have a little bit of a file that you can use to reference in the future, I'm going to send you a reference card for you to take a look at, and you can save that to your computer and follow along and refer back to it as well. Fixed aspect ratio talks about the concept of keeping your objects proportional when you resize them. If you bring in an object by copy and paste, screen clipping, or gallery, then by default, those are set to fixed aspect ratio. If we wanted to change that, we could right-click on an object and select fixed aspect ratio, or we can select the object, go up into Format, and click on fixed aspect ratio and deselect that box. Drawn objects are not set to default fixed aspect ratio. Instead, those objects you can resize however you want. This can be enabled or disabled for any object. So if I go here into my gallery and I do a search for a bird, I'm going to find an image of a bird. I've got my bee eater right here. By default, I have my fixed aspect ratio, so I can grab my corner, and you see that even if I move it straight across, it's going to keep it like that. If I right-click on it, though, and go down to fixed aspect ratio and turn that off, now I can resize this however I want, and it doesn't remain proportional when I make that change. So that's the difference between fixed aspect ratio and disabling it. Grouping is a very handy tool when you're working with multiple objects at one time, and you use this to create one movable object. First thing that you need to do grouping is you need to move them into your desired location. So if I were working with these 4 boxes and I wanted to put them together, I would move this box next to this one up here, and then slide this one into the corner. When I've got everything all situated the way that I want to, next step is to select the objects that you want to group, just like this. And then after you've selected the objects that you want to group, you have 2 different options. You can either right-click and select grouping and then group, like right here. And right-click on the objects, get grouping, and then I click on group. Or what you can do is with the object selected, you can go up into the Format menu, click on grouping, and then click on group as well. And you see you also have the options for ungroup right there. So if you wanted to make them not a group anymore, then you can ungroup them. When you are done, then, you have a final result of 4 different boxes that are all put together, and these would move as one single object when you move it around on the page, which is very useful if you're to combine multiple objects into one single object. Here's an opportunity for me to demonstrate what grouping looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these different boxes right here. I'm going to arrange them into a table, and then I'm going to put all of the objects all together. I'm going to group it, and then we'll see how it all looks together. All right. So I've got a box right here, and I've got my animal right here. I'm going to give him a name, Poison Dart Frog, and I want to put those all together. So I'm going to select them all, right-click, and then go down to Grouping, and Group. And now I have one group of 3 objects that goes right here as one cell. Next thing, I have my foxglove. So I'm going to put this right here on my page, or in my box, grab foxglove. And then here again, I'm going to go up into, this time I'm going to go up into my Format menu, Grouping, and then Group. And now these work as one spot, or as one object. Now I'm going to put together the rest of the table, like so. And then we'll grab our negatives that we'll put over here. And once I've got everything kind of in place the way that I want it to, which looks pretty good like this. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. I'm going to group all of this together. So I'm going to click on Format, Grouping, and then Group. And now they all move as one, so I'm all set. I can click on this to do one of my new reveals, and looks like we've got it all set. We did a good job. Everything is all put together. So that's how we can use grouping in with some of the interactive elements that we have in our lessons to make multiple objects move as one. Ordering changes the order of objects on the current slide. It moves objects forward and backward in relation to each other. When I'm talking to my teachers, I always tell them to think about it like layers in an overhead transparency, or if they're working in a scrapbook or something like that. Each object is on its own separate layer, so you can use ordering to move them forward and backward in relation to each other. The way that you would do this is you would right-click on an object and then select Order and one of the 4 options. So right here, this object is selected, and then if you right-click, you go down to Order, and then bring it to the front. That's going to bring it in front of everything on the page. It puts it on top. Or if you want to put it behind everything, then you put it in the back. Forward brings it forward 1 level, and backward brings it back 1 level. So you have those options. If you're not a right clicker and you just want to select something, that's the other option that you have too. You can select an object, go up into Format, go to Order, and then you have your 4 options right there. Any way you want to do it is the way that it can happen. But the end result is going to be the same. You see that we started out with this rectangle behind the purple circle, and now that rectangle is in front of the purple circle because we had the software tell it to go into the front. Here's a practical example of how you can use ordering in your classroom. This is an activity that you can do with students, a fun little thing to do. Use the selector tool to order the various animals forward or backward. If animal belongs in the barn, should be ordered to the back, and if animals do not belong in the barn, they should be ordered to the front. So, for example, we have a picture of a horse right here. This one would belong in the barn, so I'm going to right-click on that, go to Order, and send that to the back because I want it to go into the barn. And then we'll have the horse walk in, and he is in the barn, so we're all set. Now here we have a leopard. That does not belong in the barn, so I'm going to right-click on it, go to Order, bring him to the front, and now when I drag him in, he's not going to go into the barn. I have a little chick and a rooster right here. Those both are going to go in, so I'm going to go up here, select them both, go to Format, and send them to the back. And we'll bring them into the barn. So they're all set. They're safe from the predators. I have a couple of sea animals right here that don't belong in the barn. So I want to bring them to the front. I select them, click on Order, and then bring them to the front. And they don't go into the barn anymore now. Same thing probably with my frog. I want to bring him to the front. I don't know if he belongs in the barn necessarily, but the pig definitely does. So we'll send that one to the back. Right-click, Order, Back, and now the pig is in there. And finally, the grasshopper, I don't think I want him in the barn either. So I'm going to right-click, send him to the front, and now he can't go into the barn. So ordering is one of those ways you can use this as a way to reveal an answer, or to hide one thing behind another or in front of another, or a fun way to do a reveal sometimes as well. Locking makes objects stay in one place so they can't be selected or moved. You would do this for objects that you don't want to be interactive in your lessons. So for example, everything that you see here on this page, with the exception of these objects right here, are all locked in place. I can't select any of this. I can't select this text box or this image or these text boxes or anything like that because they're all locked in place. But here, I do have something that's an interactive and it's not locked. And when an interactive is not locked, it has this blue border around it. So what I can do is I can select my object, right-click, and go to Lock. When I do that, my blue border goes away, but I still can do the interactive part of this. So I can still have my flashcards show up, and everything works out okay. I could also select an object, go up into the Format menu, click on Locking, and then Lock. And now my object is locked here as well. This can be done with any object that you put onto the page in your file. So once you lock it, then you have it in place. Now you also have a keyboard shortcut, which is Control-L on the Windows or Command-L on Mac, and then unlock is going to be Control-U or Command-U if you're on a Mac. So once again, like I said, the blue border disappears when you lock down multimedia objects. And you can't just unlock one thing. You have to unlock everything on the page at the same time. So I do this by pressing Control-U, and you'll see all of these things are unlocked now. And then if I just wanted a few things to be unlocked, I want to keep everything else in place, I can just deselect the things that I want to have unlocked. So I would press and hold my Control key to deselect these objects. And then I would do a Control-L again to lock, and now everything else is locked in place, but these are not. So that's one of those. That's one of the ways that you can kind of help save yourself a little bit of time. But plan ahead when you're ready to when you're ready to lock things down. It can save yourself a little bit of time. So, in practicality, let's take a look at what it would take when we would want to lock things in place. We're going to use a combination of locking techniques to lock the proper portions of the page. Things that we want locked in place are things that we don't want moving on the screen. So I have a couple of labels right here. I'm going to press and hold Control key to select multiple things. And these things I am going to want locked in place because these are labels that I don't want my students to move. So I've got them selected. I'm going to go up into Format, click on Locking, and then Lock. And now they're locked in place. I can't move those things anymore. Same thing here with my Venn diagram. I don't want that to move as well. So I'm going to select it, click on right-click on the object, and then click Lock. And now this is stuck in one place too. Now down here, I have my choices. These are things that I do want to be able to move, so I'm going to keep them unlocked because I want them as part of the lesson. So now I'm ready to go. Everything is locked properly in the way that I want it to be. My lesson is laid out, and my students are ready to participate in this activity. Transparency is a way to affect the way that your objects and drawings and shapes and things like that are viewed and how they're visible. This is a designated level of transparency that can be applied to images, multimedia objects, many tools like the pen or the text tool. The way that you would set the transparency is you select an object, and then you click on the transparency button in your tools, right here. Once you select the transparency tool, you have a couple of different options. You can do a solid, completely opaque, or you can go 10, 25, 50, 75, or 90%. 90% is barely even visible. But you have those choices for the level of transparency that you want to do. For the pen, brush, line, and shape tools, you can select the level of transparency before using them. You simply select the tool, select the transparency level, and then use the tool. So for example, I have my rectangle tool right here. I'm going to have a black border with a green fill, and then I can select my transparency tool, go down to 50%, and I'm making a transparent shape right there on my screen, which is really nice. Now, here's once again a little bit of an application of how you would use transparency. What we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a grouping technique to group the green words and the image. And then I'm going to set those to 50% transparency, and then I'll group the blue arrow with the transparent image to create something that would be an answer key for a lesson. So I'm going to take my mouse, click and drag across all of these objects. I want to group them together. So I'm going to right-click. Oops, let's try that again. I'm going to right-click on the image, click on grouping, and then group. And now that acts as one. I want to make this transparent now, so I'm going to leave it selected, click on transparency, go to 50%, and that is not very visible. Not quite sure what happened there. Let's try that one more time. So I've got my image. Here we go. We made him 50% transparent. Now we will make our group. So Format, Grouping, Group. And then I want to add this. I want to add this to my group as well. So I'm going to go to Format, Grouping, Group, and now I've got an answer key that I can move from one side to the other. This is the finished product then of what that would look like. So using transparency in the classroom, I would take my cell membrane, label it right here, cytoplasm, mitochondrion. Oops, that's nucleus. and then grab all of my different answers and put everything in here. And then to click on the answer, I could just bring my reveal over, and it looks like everything matches. So I'm all set. I did a good job. I can see my answers as well as what the correct answer is. So that's one way that you could use transparency in your classroom. Alignment is a way to align objects in relation to each other on a page. Note it's objects in relation to each other. It is not on the page itself. So when you select middle alignment, that is middle of two objects. It's not the middle of the page. Keep that in mind. So the way that you would do this is you select both objects from the selection using the selection tool, go to Format, and then Align, and select how you want to align your images. So you see we have all of these options right here. In the Format menu, click on Alignment, Align, and then left, center, and right, that's your vertical alignment, and top, middle, and bottom is your horizontal alignment. Once again, that is in relation to one another, the two objects that you have selected. The other way to do this is to select your objects, and then you can right-click on the objects and select the way that you want it to display. So when I select both objects using the selection tool, I right-click, go down to Align, and then select the way that I want them to be aligned. And once I've done that, this layout right here is with both center and middle alignment. Really quick and easy way to match up my alignment with my objects using the alignment tool. Once again, in relation to each other on a page, not on the page itself. So this is the way that it kind of looks in practicality. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you I'm going to select the 4 yellow boxes and align those objects to the center. And then I have 4 text boxes to the right. I'm going to use an alignment method to align those objects to the right. So I'm going to press and hold my control key to select multiple boxes here. I've got all of them selected. I'm going to right click, go to Align, and then Center. And now they all line up automatically right in the middle of each other. Next thing I want to do is I want to select all of these. I'm going to click and drag to select these 4 boxes. And now this time I'm going to go up into Format, Align, and these I want aligned to the right. So I aligned those to the right, and now they're all set. So everything is put in the right order in the way that I want it. If I wanted to change the way that this looks, I just go Format, Align, and then I can make them align to the left. But you see everything matches up, everything lines up, and we're all set. There are a couple of extension activities that you can participate in. I'm going to send a file with a challenge activity for you to try out. Follow the directions on there. Hone your skills with the challenges that are included. I would also encourage you to make it a routine to lock your objects down in your lessons, especially if you don't want them to be manipulated by you or by your students. Helps to kind of keep away from all of that accidental kind of interaction if you don't want it to happen. Use the grouping and ordering tools to make your lesson building and interactivity engaging. And then of course I would encourage you to learn more from our other Quick Learn sessions. Mimio training, lots of on-demand and online resources available at Mimio.com. You can find reference guides, video tutorials, user guides, and Quick Learn recordings, just like this one. There also is a way to register for live Quick Learn sessions. They're a little bit more interactive, have lots of fun and engaging content, and give you an opportunity to practice these skills with a little bit of additional support if you need that. So encourage you to check those out at Mimio.com. Mimio Connect is the interactive teaching community that goes along with Mimio. You can find lots of free educational teacher-created resources with content that's aligned to state and Common Core standards. It's a very large, active online community, and of course you have access to Mimio Masters who can answer your questions directly. Lots of really great things going on at MimioConnect.com. Please, if you haven't already, join us there and see what you can find. Here are the Mimio Classroom products. You can find out more information about them by contacting the local sales rep or reseller for more information. You could also go to Mimio.com or call 877-MY-MIMIO. Thank you for watching this recording. Hopefully it's been very useful for you. Here is a link to an assessment that you can take for a 1 hour of professional development credits in your state or district. If that qualifies for you, you'll get a certificate after completing the assessment, and you can show what you know. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can contact us at training@mimio.com. Follow us on Facebook, or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/mimio.technology. Watch us on YouTube, and of course, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/mimiotechnology.